Hey everyone, Tanette here, and I am going to try and do a video. This is new for me, but anyways, some of my friends said that I should start doing videos, so we're gonna practice doing some videos. This is haven't done my hair and makeup today, but that doesn't matter. Anyways, so I was listening to the Bernie and Ted Cruz debate night, which was somewhat infuriating on so many different levels. And then I was kind of at the same time, shuffling through Facebook and getting equally frustrated. It's very ironic to me that I have so many wonderful, wonderful, smart, intelligent, caring, loving people that I consider friends and family that are on these total opposite spectrums as far as how they view themselves politically. Some are Republicans, some are Democrats, some are Green Party, Libertarian. I mean, you can just name it across the board. They all seem to have a great pride in work ethic, and they all seem to love people. I shouldn't say all of them, but the majority of them seem to come from a kind heart, if you want to think about it that way. But I listened to Bernie and Ted Cruz talk about taxes, and Ted kept throwing in socialist. Oh, you're a socialist, you're a socialist. Come on, Bernie, just say it, you're a socialist. Just say it, you want to raise taxes on everybody. Come on, right? And then Bernie would go back at him, and it's kind of silly because while Ted is trying to make Bernie look bad for wanting to raise taxes, he's also wanting to lower taxes on the extremely wealthy. So he tries to spin it as, hey, I'm lowering taxes for you on the bottom, but really the people that really get the gains are the people at the top. And so obviously billionaires do not need any further tax cuts. I mean, come on. And then we get that little narrative going where, we live in a capitalist society, and America would never survive, being, going how Bernie wants to go with his socialist views and, that sort of thing. And I just laugh because I work in America. I grew up in a capitalist society, and I have a middle income house. I have 4 children. I've got a daughter in college right now. I'll have another daughter in college later in the fall. And it's expensive. It's extremely expensive. And if you're, I fall into the category of a lot of Americans where I had a good size retirement, and I lost a lot when 9/11 happened. And then I lost some during 2008. My husband lost his job, and he probably could have gotten back into work a little sooner than he was, but he had been working for the same company for over 18 years, and it really hit him hard. I don't think that people realize how hard it hit somebody who is a workaholic who busts his ass for a company and then loses his job after 18 years due to downsizing. Anyways, it took a while. We were just surviving off of one income for over almost 3 years, and so in that time frame we racked up enough credit card debt to last us a lifetime. And that's too much information. It's none of your real business, but that's just a little part of our story. And so we still have that credit card debt, and we are A plus credit scores, and because we always pay our bills on time, and we live in a decent house, and we don't live extravagantly. My husband drives a 2001 minivan, And I used to drive a 2003 minivan, and I would love that darn car, but I had a car accident, so now I'm driving another car. But at any rate, the point is that we don't live extravagantly. I've worked since I was 15 years old. I don't expect anything to be handed to me. But we just, live paycheck to paycheck. We're racking up a ton of student debt, having my daughter in college, and she's going to come out of college with probably around $80,000 in debt, because we make too much money to qualify for any loans that, any free loans. So everything has to be paid off. The loans, the interest rates on these loans are astronomical. You can never ever get out of these loans. It's literally criminal. So at any rate, I'm just like the rest of middle America, working hard every day, struggling just to make the ends meet, and I make a decent living. So realizing that, I know I have a lot of credit card debt that maybe other people don't have, but there are millions of people that don't have a job. There's millions of people that don't make as much money as Kenny and I do. Not that we're like really high income, but there's lots of people that make less than we do. So I'm sure they're, struggling extremely, they're just struggling. And when people are struggling, they tend to turn to alcohol and drugs on occasion. And then sometimes they just fall into depression and feel like there's no way out. We have over 45,000 people that kill themselves annually due to financial distress. That is, what I would call a phrase that I heard at the Monetary Economics Convention I attended. There was a gentleman, I believe his name was John Larchuk, and he did a presentation, and he referred to our situation as a money famine. And his presentation's on my page, so if you want to go find it, he's amazing, and it was a very good presentation about where we're at in society. Regarding taxes and programs that are needed for our society, the reason why we talk about MMT so often why I talk about MMT so often is because after doing a lot of studying over the past couple years, I realized that the narrative of our government being broke and the narrative of us needing to collect taxes to pay for programs is false. It's a misnomer. And unfortunately, when you hear something enough times, it gets kind of sunk into your subconscious, and you just believe it to be a fact. And I think that there's probably a lot of things in this world that kind of are like that in our psyche. And if you ask somebody why they believe a certain belief, they may not even know where it came from. It could be just that their parents said it, and their aunts and uncles said it, and so it must be true. It's just what they heard, So when we're talking about monetary sovereignty as a nation, what that basically means is that our government is allowed to, and they're the only entity that's allowed to create high-powered U.S. dollars. Those dollars do not come from anywhere. They're not dug up out of the ground. We don't go, bang them out. We don't go get gold out of a mountain and put it in a vault to print money like we used to. The gold standard's over. It's been over since 1971. And so we have the ability to create any amount of money. And as soon as you say that, people start to freak out. Oh, you're just going to print the money. You're going to just print the money. You can't just print the money. We're going to have hyperinflation, and the whole world is going to end. And, it's hilarious because they're not really even, it's just a reaction that they're having, and they're not really thinking it through. And so if you start to kind of study our financial system and the way that things have come down, you'll see that when Congress creates their budget, when they spend their budget on the military, on all the different programs that they spend their money on, that is the creation of the dollar. When the government spends on the military, those dollars gets spent into those bank accounts, could be Boeing or Lockheed or whatever, and those dollars then go into the soldiers or the employees or whoever's working in those locations, into their pockets, and those people spend those dollars out into the economy. So obviously there's lots of different places that the government spends money, but that is the only way that real money is created, is by the government spending it into the economy. So the life of a dollar is Congress spending it into the economy. The death of a dollar is the taxation of the dollar. And we're talking on the federal level. State taxes are entirely different. So when people talk about, I don't want my hard-earned tax dollars paying for things, they're a little bit confused, because they're under the impression that their tax dollars pay for things. Your tax dollars do not actually go anywhere. Once they're paid, your debt is erased. It's as if you took a loan out at a bank and you paid back that loan, and once you pay that loan, the debt is gone. Your debt is forgiven. So basically that's what taxes are. They forgive your debt to society. They forgive your debt. As to be a citizen, you have to pay your taxes. Okay, so when you pay your taxes, now your debt for that year is paid off. Now you can continue to be a good tax-paying citizen in America. Okay, so the taxes don't go to any bucket. So when they talk about Social Security being unsustainable, or the debt is unsustainable, it's terminology that you don't understand, and they're playing on your heartstrings. They're trying to create a situation where they can give tax breaks to the corporations. They're trying to explain to you why they can't give you government programs to help with society. And this is all capitalist stuff. These are our politicians, as you know. I'm not telling you something that you don't already know. Democrats and Republicans on both sides, they are all bought and paid for, right? I mean, I think that's fairly well documented. I mean, for crying out now, it's just hilarious to me. Elizabeth Warren, our, champion of the people, will, during a congressional, I can't think of the right word, but, on the panel, when they're drilling the people that have either stolen money or, taken money from Wall Street, or they're being corrupt in some way, she'll get up there and she'll yell at them. She'll yell at them for how terrible that they are. And they'll lie under oath. They'll lie. And it's against the law to lie under oath. And they'll have the proof that they're lying under oath, but they will never get in trouble for it. Will never get in trouble. Nothing happens. The worst thing that ever happens is that they yell at them, "You bad people." Woo, scary. So they sit up there with their water and they, speak into their little microphone, and then they go on their merry way, because they got their spanking, they got their hand slapped, and then they go back to the bank and collect their money. So it's just really hilarious that we as Democrats, or we as Republicans, or we as libertarians or whatever, that we are not calling out and holding our Congress accountable. It has to stop. It has to stop. There is no shortage of money. Okay? There is no shortage of money. There can be no shortage of money for a government that creates its own money. And when you talk about the debt, it's just a term. It's just a term. The federal debt, okay, see I got two hands here. The federal debt is a private sector surplus. So when they spend money, they spend $5 into the economy, so the economy has $5. Now the government's in debt for $5. That's the deficit. Yay! Right? Isn't that scary? They just put $5 in your pocket. We must give it back. We have to give it back. We have to have a balanced budget. That $5 that they gave to us, we have to give it back. That way we can have 0. Yay! Now it feels so much better because it's a balanced budget. It's just nonsense. Folks, the federal government does not have a balance sheet like the average household, okay? They don't have to earn money before they can spend it. They create the money, okay? Why do we have taxes? We have taxes because it drives the value of the money. We also have taxes to help with income inequality. And you say, oh, you know, that's not that's un-American to take money away from the people that earned it. And I used to feel that way, but I kind of disagree now. I kind of disagree. When I think that there is a line where enough is enough. If you have earned so many dollars off of the labor of others that you've made, the gap has gone like this. It's gone, the middle class has gone straight, and then the wealthy, their income has gone straight up. And that gap in between, that gap should have been a bar where we both get raised, right? But when the greedy get greedy, the gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so what that means is that the corporations, they're not paying out they're not paying for the labor in an adequate manner. They're not paying the wages that they're not paying in proportion to the labor that they received. Okay? And also, when a person gets so much income that they can literally buy our government, there's a problem. Okay? So we have corporations that buy our politicians so that they don't have to have rules regulating their emissions and their chemicals that ruin our air, that they ruin our water, right? We allow them to dig into mountains and destroy our earth. How do they do that? Because they have so much money. I mean, look at Amazon. Amazon owns the Washington Post now, right? They own the Washington Post. They bought Whole Foods. They're buying out all sorts of companies all over the place. Why? Because they can. They are buying out their competition. I have a friend who is a small business. He has a patented product. He sells it online. He sells it to multiple different companies. I'm not going to say his name or whatever. But one of his products is sold on Amazon. Amazon actually buys his product and sells it as their own, which is, a lot of products are not like that on Amazon, but this particular product is like that. So Amazon went and bought his number one customer, bought their company outright. Just a little small online business. They bought them because that was their competition. So, it's when people have too much money, nothing good can come of that. There is a point where enough is enough. And worshiping the almighty dollar, that's a moral issue. In my opinion, enough is enough. I got a little bit off tangent, but the point of the matter is that we're not in a shortage of money, financially speaking. The only thing that we need to worry about is our real resources, meaning, do we have enough people to do the task that needs to be done? Do we have enough resources in the way of, do we have enough wood to build a house? Do we have enough food our farmers growing enough food to feed our citizens? Do we have the ability to create energy? What can we do for that? There's all these problems in society, but really it boils down to a few problems that are necessities for our survival in America. And those are food, water, shelter, and power. That's really, we could bring in infrastructure and transportation potentially, but healthcare. So our government should be spending the money on the things that actually matter to our society, that really matter. I don't think it matters if we have a company that makes Barbie dolls. I don't think it really matters if we have a company that builds trinkets or tchotchkes or, I don't know. There's a lot of junk that is made in the world that isn't a necessity. So let the private sector have that stuff, okay? And if it's something that is bad for the environment and it's something that's not beneficial, make them pay a little higher tax. If the private sector is doing something that's beneficial to society, that's not hurting our environment, that's beneficial for the world, let them pay a lower tax. How about that? But once the profit of a corporation gets to a certain degree, if they're not investing back into the people by hiring more workers or increasing the wages of their employees or something, spreading that profit out around to benefit the greater good, then yeah, I say go ahead and tax. Once you get past a certain point, you gotta give it back. Okay, we cannot have 6 corporations in charge of all of our media. We can't have, I don't even know. I think it's like 10 corporations that own every other corporations. They're all owned. We don't know that because they kept their original names, so we wouldn't know what's going on. But it's pretty crazy out there. So we can have healthcare, we can have clean water, we can have education, we can have student debt relief, we can have every freaking college debt erased by the federal government. And everyone's, well, I paid off my student loan all by myself and I walked 20 miles in the snow to school and god damn it, those people, they knew what they were getting into. Just silly. It's just silly. What would be so awful if we had a society that wasn't burdened in debt? What would be so awful if we had clean water? What would be so awful if we had solar power that was free? Once we pay for the equipment, once we get the equipment installed, the sun brings us our energy at a much reduced cost. What would be so horrific about that? Right? I mean, what would be so awful about healthcare, having healthcare for everybody? Well, who's going to pay for it? The federal government's going to pay for it. And what's that going to do? Increase jobs. I mean, we need more jobs. We need more jobs that are not hurting the environment. And I think pretty much nurses and doctors and all those types of jobs, they're service jobs. They're not hurting the environment. Those are the kind of jobs that are very beneficial to society, right? We're so afraid to take on the insurance industry. Oh, they're never going to let us do that. Who's they? Aren't we they? 350 million of us, they? Don't we have a say? Or we're just going to cry and grab our blanket and say, nobody's, they won't let us do that. Tanette, you're being silly. They'll never let us do that. defeatist attitude is so un-American. So un-American. You should be ashamed of yourself if you're talking like that or thinking like that. You need to stand up, shake off the freaking dirt, and get ready to go to battle. And you need to look the freaking Elizabeth Warren and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and I can't even think of all these clowns. Don't even get me started on the Republican side. Oh my gosh. Mike Pence, Donald Trump, Paul Ryan, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, all of them spreading nonsense about the debt. Folks, the debt is nothing to be afraid of. It's just the money in the economy. And then we have all these treasury bills that are sitting out there. That's just US dollars that are earning interest. And the interest is going to be paid by who? The federal government. Is there any reason you should worry about them not paying that when they can create it out of thin freaking air? There's no worry. Treasury bonds just pull money out of the economy temporarily to help stabilize it. It's not necessary. They don't need to do it. They don't need to borrow. They're not borrowing from China. China does hold a lot of US dollars, but that's because we buy a lot of goods and services from China. So we bought the things with US dollars, so now they have dollars. It's just silly. It's absolutely silly. You know what you should be really worried about is the banks, because they don't put enough money in the economy and the wages are so low that people are forced to take out loans. They don't have enough money to save to purchase something, so they have to take out loans. Now that money is a little more dangerous, because that money the American public has to pay back. So when you get yourself into credit card debt, or you get yourself in, a $40,000 car loan, you have to pay that back. All right? When the bank loans you that money, they're creating that money. That is loan money. It's not high-powered money. And so temporarily there's an influx of dollars into the U.S. economy when they make that loan. And as you pay it back, those dollars come back out of the economy. So we have a lot of money in the economy that is created by banks in the way of loans. And as we pay them back, then the money gets reduced out of the economy. But they keep giving loans, keep giving loans. Why? Because they charge interest and make a ton of money doing it. So they're allowed to do that. And so we have a lot of money in the economy. I haven't looked at the numbers, but the numbers of outstanding debt is astronomical. So if you want people to be able to pay off that debt, then their wages are going to have to come up higher to where they can pay off those loans, and then future state, they're going to need to make enough money to where they can save money to make those purchases, so that they don't have to take out loans, so they can just pay cash. So that's a whole nother subject. But healthcare, need to do it today. There's no reason. It's less expensive. We don't have any loyalty to insurance companies. They've been raping us for years. They made their billions. Okay, wait. They made their trillions. I have no sympathy. If there's somebody that's working for the insurance industry and they lose their job, the federal government will let them collect an unemployment check for a while. There's going to be a huge boom in the health sector when they do switch this, and they will switch it, and those people can move to those jobs. I'm sorry. When, new technology comes aboard, if it's better, you move to it. You don't sit in the don't sit in the mud. You got to get up and get out of the mud and move forward. We have solar power, wind power, water power, all this clean energy, and we're not utilizing our full capacity. We have over 6 million people that need jobs. We have, I think, around 3 million people that are considered underemployed, meaning they have degrees or better skill sets than the job that they're doing. So they're working at it could be working at a fast food restaurant. They could be working at a regular restaurant as a waitress, or whatever is less than what, and the minimum wage. We can't even get the Democrats to fight for $15 an hour when $15 an hour isn't even enough to live on. I mean, that's ridiculous. We need to have a federal job guarantee that pays a minimum of $22 an hour, and by which the private sector has to match. So if they can't at least meet wage, then people are not going to work for them. And you know what? If you can't afford to pay someone a livable wage, then your business plan is flawed. And I'm sorry. You have to go back to the drawing board. But you cannot expect people to work for you at a wage that is not a livable wage. You just can't. Slavery is over, right? And that is a form of slavery. When we do not have enough jobs in the economy to pay livable wages, and so people are forced to take a reduced paying job, it's criminal. It's criminal. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.